On this episode of Higher Definition, Halle Berry in high definition. At last, that TV purchase is worth it.
You have any idea what the word loyal means?
I bet your wife is wondering the same thing.
Welcome to Higher Definition. I am, as always, your fashionably dressed host, Robert Wolanski. And on this episode, we have from the film Perfect Stranger, Giovanni Ribisi and Halle Berry. I figured since you really just want to see Giovanni Ribisi anyway, we'll start with him. We have about 25 minutes of footage with him and about 3 of Halle Berry, if that works out well for you. Or maybe it's the other way around. We'll start with Halle Berry. She is, after all, the star of this film, directed by James Foley, best known for having done Glengarry Glen Ross, and most recently Confidence with Ed Burns, one of my favorite guests on Higher Definition. This is another one of those familiar Foley films, try saying that 13 times fast, in which people are not who they think they are, or who they say they are, or who they believe them to be, or who want us to believe that they are not to be, and that is what they are. In this film, Halle Berry plays an investigative reporter who is investigating, oddly enough, the death of her best friend, who she believes was killed by an ad man played by Bruce Willis. Also, Giovanni Ribisi plays sort of her boy Friday in one of those entanglements that is not quite romantic, but is a little bit creepy. So here is Halle Berry, who plays Ro amongst many characters in Perfect Stranger, talking about that film, talking about her career, and talking about why I'm a little bit creepy.
Everyone has secrets,
Ro, wait up. Grace.
but not everyone
You'll never believe who I met online.
knows how to keep them.
And his wife has no idea.
You threatened to go to my wife? Answer me!
It's Grace. She's missing.
Oh my God. Grace.
So when you go around talking about this film, you said this is your own sort of your last stop before your European venture. Do you find that in talking about the film, especially a film like this, which is sort of multi-layered and multifaceted, do you find that you start to think about it differently, about who this woman that you play is? Because she is so many different women. She's about 5 or 6 different characters as best I can count.
Yeah, I do. And it forced me to sort of look inward. And anytime I think an actor portrays a character, there are parts of themselves that sort of sneak in there. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. And playing her certainly made me think not only about my psyche, but the psyche of everybody around me. You know, it started to make me think, who is everybody and who are people? They present one face to me, but who are they really? And will we ever know who people really are? Even if you're married, say 20 years, do married couples really know what each other does in the quiet of their mind when nobody's around, like what they really do, who they really are, what they're really capable of?
Well, the answer is obviously no.
Obviously no. But when you really ponder that thought, it becomes, you look at your partner and you go,
Right.
you're a little scary.
Right, your partner, your best friends.
Your mother, your siblings, every strangers, you think, oh my God, they're probably, capable of being a lunatic. Like, it really makes you look at people differently. Sometimes.
We have a new temp. Her name is Catherine Pogue.
The boss is kind of hot.
Married. He had a couple of inter-office flings and paid a lot of money to make them go away.
You're Catherine, right? Nice dress.
Nice party. Don't ever speak to Mr. Hill directly. If you need him, go through me.
Is my husband still in the meeting?
Take a closer look into his account. This guy's definitely hiding something.
There are essentially 2 versions of Ro, who's sort of the one main character you play. It's not that she changes characters, but she certainly changes clothes, changes personae, changes where she works, sort of all of these things. And I assume that that's a great thrill for an actor.
It is. It's like having, as an actor, we're sort of chameleons anyway, but to get to be a chameleon within being a chameleon, essentially.
Within. I mean,
Yeah, within. And the challenge was because she's an investigative reporter, and so she pretends to be people all the time to sort of, sting her prey, to get her story. But the challenge for an actor was to act like I'm acting another character, but have the audience always remember that she's acting. So not do it so well that they forget she's acting, but do it well enough to convince the audience that she's convincing sort of the prey in the movie that she is who she's supposed to be.
Right.
So it was finding what is that line,
So how do you do that?
That was my challenge, to always try to get it right, and the director helped me a lot. Sometimes he would say, I believed that too much. I believe that Catherine Pogue should have an Oscar at home, and she doesn't have an Oscar at home, so she can't be that good of a liar, so I have to find a way to make her believable, but, the audience still had to see, her flaws and see that she was struggling with this, because it's really, she's not an actor, essentially. She's not supposed to be.
Right. Well, that's what Foley does best. I mean, in all of his films, the best moments of James' movies are that you don't know what's going on, you don't know who to believe.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that when you go into Perfect Stranger, you sort of have an idea, a very clear idea of what's going on.
And you think you know.
You think you know exactly what's going on.
And you think you know who done it, and then if you think you knew in the beginning, halfway through, then you think you know again.
Right.
And then you think you know, oh, now I get it, it's going to be. So if we did our job properly, it should be, whoa, what? When I read the script, I was like, wow, I didn't even see that coming. Like,
Right.
where did that, I had to go back and reread it and see if I could understand it, in a new way.
So when Foley tells you that Catherine's too good an actor, sort of how do you rein that in, and how do you, because it must make you think about the process of what you do for a living, sort of how to communicate that within so many layers of this one character.
Well, I pull back and I remind myself, what is my task at hand? I'm a woman who's pretending to be somebody else, who's not really, she's good at it, but she's not great at it, and so I have to be mindful of letting her flaws and her, vulnerability come to the surface always. So when she's acting, there's one scene in the movie where my character is inserting some spyware in a computer. She's theoretically busted, but I had to act, more afraid than I would have been, and I had to have the audience believe that she was really afraid, for what they thought she was afraid about, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so those were the little subtleties that I had to always be reminded of, and try to keep the audience with this character, thinking they knew exactly who she was all the time.
I mean, even when we see her at the very beginning, she's pretending to be from family first in order to bust a senator.
Yeah.
And there's this idea from the very get-go that she's never who we think she's going to be.
Right. That's sort of her issue in the movie. Nobody is who you think they are in the movie, is what you come to discover. There's a big scene with the Miles character when you realize something about him and you're like, wow, that's weird.
Well, see, what's interesting about Miles' character is that he has to be creepy and likable at the same time. And that's sort of what everybody in this movie kind of has going on in some way.
Creepy likability.
Right, which is often what people say about me. So it works, I understand it, and that's, I think, what I got.
You should love the movie.
I know, right? It fits me to a T. But I mean, sort of, you've never really done a film like this.
Never, no.
I mean, are you looking for things along, I'm sure you're throwing 1,000 things a day. I mean, when you begin to, well, maybe 99.
I was going to say, 1,000 things a day.
That'd be a lot.
That would be great.
But I mean, certainly speaking hyperbolically.
Yes.
Do you look for certain things to fill in blanks, or do you just sort of take the thing that interests you? Do you say, I haven't done this sort of multifaceted character study like this? You certainly have played damaged characters before, much as she is.
I have, and I think that's sort of the thread that connected me to her was I'm familiar with sort of some of the underpinnings of who she is, but on the surface, she's someone very different and offered a new challenge, this character within a character. And then when you saw the movie, so you know really what it represents for me. So it's a big challenge to do something different, and I always try to do something different. Sometimes I read a script, and by page 20, it feels too familiar. It's a character I've played before, just has a different name, and then I usually don't even finish, and I think, no, I've done this. This might be a great script, great character, but for somebody else, I've done it. I've got the lesson from this character.
What are you doing in this room?
You've been manipulating this whole thing.
Everybody has secrets. You gonna spy on me?
When you read something like this, which does sort of, it offers sort of an extension or a fleshing out of some ideas that you've dealt with in the past, do you then say, well, this is really interesting because I can take what I've done in this film and sort of take it to another level? It's not a reiteration of what you've done before, but certainly a sort of fleshing out of it.
It's fleshing out, and I think I've learned sort of, what I like, and sort of what my niche is when it comes to characters. I know what I respond to. I know what my well is full of.
Right.
So I know what things to draw to me because I know what what I have down there. And I think that is sort of my initial guide, but it's always trying to find somebody that is a little still different in some way, or have the genre be different in some way, or work with a director that can, explore that character, which might seem familiar, explore it in a different way, so that the experience somehow becomes different and new.
Do you find that you crave after experiences like this, something light and bright and something sort of, because that certainly doesn't seem to be the thing that interests you as much.
It does interest me, and I've done those things in my career.
But certainly it seems in the last several years that's sort of not been the thing that you've been drawn to.
Oh, I did Catwoman. Nobody seemed to get the joke, so I don't know if people want me to do those things, but I want to do them.
Right.
And I have a romantic comedy that's coming up, so hopefully a career is long, and I'll be able to sprinkle different things.
No, and it always interests me, sort of, as actors begin to define their careers. Because, Tulia, you're about to do that, correct? Which is a fascinating, being here in Texas is certainly a story about which I've known a great deal, and as a reporter myself, it's something that I do know a great deal, 10% of a town being arrested, racial profiling. It's a fascinating story. I assume that as a career progresses, you start also looking for the stories you want to tell as well.
Yeah, things that are important to me. And now that I've started producing, and not just being the dancing bear, I'm learning that I do have the power to tell stories that I want to tell, and not necessarily act in them, but like produce for other artists, and help provide opportunities for other women, because it's hard for women today to still find great roles.
As you begin to produce and define the career, I mean, do you realize, A, the power you wield, and the responsibilities that come along with it in terms of the things you want to make and the stories you want to tell and the people you want to work with?
Yeah, I am realizing the power, but I'm also in touch with that. Although there's a great responsibility that comes with it, and sometimes I can honor and live up to that responsibility, but I also have to live up to the expectation that I have for myself, of myself. And sometimes that's about making choices that are personal to me. Whether or not anybody gets the joke or anybody sees the value in what I'm choosing to do, I have to always be mindful that I have the right, as an artist, to do what I want to do and do it my way on my own terms. And that can be a really hard road to navigate when you have so many people in the industry trying to tell you what your responsibility is. When being a woman of color, when I have a group of people hanging their hopes and dreams on my head, it's very hard to sometimes walk your individual path. And I have to be mindful that it's really okay for us to do that.
Was there a moment at which you realized you had that ability, that power, and that responsibility? Because it seems, I don't know if it comes after winning an Oscar or if it comes even before that.
It was before that for me. I produced a movie called Introducing Dorothy Dandridge because nobody wanted to tell the story, and everybody thought, who's interested in her life of this forgotten starlet? And I knew then, once I got that done, that I had the power to do what I wanted to do.
Is it liberating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I appreciate it. I will liberate you from this room.
From this chair?
But thank you for doing this.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Do not turn your TVs off just because Halle Berry is gone, because coming up next is Giovanni Ribisi, an intense and interesting fellow. He's next on Higher Definition.
Finally, a comedy that's mature.
You're stupid, Jack.
No, you are.
No, you are.
Hysterics that are refined. Ageless and classy humor.
I made a smiley in my Shelly.
Eugene Levy, Seth Green, Greg the Bunny.
This place is filled with freaks. I'm gonna fit right in.
Tonight, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific on HDNet.
Now, in Perfect Stranger, Giovanni plays Balky. Oh, wait, that's Perfect Stranger's remake he is currently working on. In Perfect Stranger, he plays Miles, who is, in fact, Halle Berry's assistant, best friend, and creepy stalker. which is kind of the way I describe myself to my friends. Here he is, Giovanni Ribisi, a guy you probably know from such films as Saving Private Ryan and Basic. He's also in Perfect Stranger with Halle Berry.
Oh my God, something terrible has happened.
Secrets are great unless you get caught.
Do you have any idea what the word loyal means?
I bet your wife is wondering the same thing.
It always seems to me that you pick the thing that's the opposite of the thing you did the last time.
Right. maybe I do that subconsciously. I don't know. I like diversity, and I like. I think that I feel fortunate in that as an actor you really do get to explore different characters and different cultures and different lives, and express that in stories. And so this is sort of the thriller genre. I guess.
But you like doing the thriller genre. You've done a few, and they're always kind of different twists on the genre. They're not just sort of the pat thriller.
Yeah, I mean, with this movie is really, I guess what's interesting, and it was great to be able that somebody finally sort of got hip to the idea of of what makes a thriller work and what is relevant and going on in our day and age, which is really sort of that mystery and secrets and how far people go to keep those secrets and desperation and all of that. And with online chatting and MySpace, and we're plausibly in a world where things aren't necessarily what they seem.
Second Life, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and that sort of mask that people will wear. And so this tackled that, and we had a 2-week rehearsal schedule, which is quite considerable in today's day and age, ironically enough. But it was just 8 hours a day. It was one of the more rigorous rehearsals that I've had on a movie, and it was just me, Bruce, Halle, and James Foley, the director, just pounding the pavement and really just trying to find our way and navigate through all the different characters that all the characters are playing.
Right. I was telling Halle, I think she plays. I think it's 5 or 6 different characters. Mm-hmm. Once you add David Shane into the mix, it's sort of all these other.
Yeah, exactly.
And Aliases, Rocket Girl, Catherine, 2 different rows. I mean, there seems to be.
Yeah, and for me, the character was written as being this kind of overweight, frumpy, cliche internet guy, who's a hacker, and James and I wanted to go completely in the opposite direction and make him sort of witty and charming and really trying to win Halle's character over. And it just sort of made it that much more dynamic when he does have that, and that's what he projects to the world. And he's just so much darker than that.
Hello, can I help you?
Oh, yeah, hi, I'm from IT. I was sent to run the detox on Mr. Hill's computer.
Fascinating. Want to know why? Nobody called IT.
Well, your computer did, sir. When any computer hooked up to the grid goes down, it cries for help.
Cry for help. Have you tried these?
No.
There's a little honey in the center.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
Harrison Hill.
Benson, Kurt.
Interesting name. Let me ask you something. Could this have anything to do with someone trying to install spyware on my computer?
Well, it could have to do with anything, but I won't know until I give your computer a clean scrub.
I like a good clean scrub.
Yeah.
I need about 10 minutes in my office, but in the meantime, I'm sure Josie wouldn't mind showing you around the office.
Hello, Josie.
Josie, meet Benson, Kurt. Esmeralda, can I have those mock-ups at Gunner left someplace, please?
Yes.
The thing that is interesting about Miles is that he's creepy, and yet supposed to be really likable, which is a very tricky balance to pull off, as I discover in my daily life. But I mean, that's sort of the thing about him, though. You really do like this guy, but there are hints very early on that the guy's just got some issues.
Yeah, and I think that's part of, I guess, where he goes as far as a character. In every story and in every movie, you try to have that transformation with a character. And I think that, he does have that underbelly and that darker side to him, and with that mask that he wears. But I think it gets deeper and darker as the story progresses.
Is that what you guys figure out in that 2-week rehearsal period?
Yeah, I mean, and it's also just sort of there in the script, and it's just also part of the evolution of making the film and shooting, because we had 3 months on it, so.
Right. Well, because
and working on it. I mean, I think that there's the the movies the movies that I do are gonna be around a lot longer than I am, and I think it's important to really sort of give it everything you have and focus and commit yourself, and yeah, it's just about being committed to that and really using your imagination and looking at all of what the possibilities can be.
See, that's the thing. My wife told me the other day we were watching something with you in it. I think it was Basic.
Oh, right.
She goes. The great thing about Giovanni is that he doesn't cash a paycheck. That's a guy that no matter what he's in, no matter what he's doing, gives it everything he's got.
Yeah, that was a totally different experience. That was something that was interesting, and yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's the thing for me. I don't want to just sort of show up and say, where do I stand, and then just recite things, because I think that it can be so much more exciting, and it's just also a measure for my own sort of livelihood, and I guess I would probably feel dead, or like I'm not living my life unless I'm doing that.
Well, one thing I've always loved about you is every interview I've ever read with you over decades of doing this, it's been 15, 20 years now. It's really about how seriously you take this and how much of a craft you see this. It's not a gig, it's not a paycheck, it's this thing that I think you, perhaps more than a lot of your peers or people our age in this job, sort of, to them it's fun. But you seem to take it far more seriously than that.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, I don't necessarily see, like you had, when I was coming up as an actor, people like Gary Oldman and Tim Roth and Daniel Day-Lewis being inspired by all of the films from the 70s and all the performances from the 70s. I don't necessarily see that nowadays, people having that kind of commitment. I guess Daniel Day-Lewis spent 2 years on the boxing for The Boxer. And it comes in ebbs and flows, but it is definitely something for me that I do believe that that film is effective, and it has a sociological relevance, and I think society affects film, and film affects society, and it's my passion. It's what I do, and I really want to sort of fulfill that, and what my imagination or what the possibilities are. And I think it's important to attack things and to attack whatever you do with energy. And despite the blows of what your life or what you can encounter with that, I think that it's really important to maintain that focus.
So how then do you start choosing the things that you want to do to fill in these blanks, to sort of flesh out that what ultimately is an ideology about acting, about performing?
Right, exactly. Yeah. For me, it's the idea is to really. I mean, as far as being involved in a specific movie, I think it's all about the director and my respect and my trust and my rapport with them. And first off, and then it's really about the character. And is this maybe like a story that I can find my own personalization with and relate to, or be involved in, and to a greater or lesser degree take responsibility for. There is that thing where you have a script, and the script is great, and it's really successful to a greater or lesser degree, because it's it's just keeping you completely wrapped. But it's one thing to have that, and then to actually translate that and make that go across to the final edit of the film.
Sure.
And because so many times you'll have a great script, a great director, a great character, and all of the above, a great cast, and then it just somewhere takes
the studio boss gets a hold of it, recuts it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it is, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect Stranger opens on Friday. Also opening this month is another Giovanni Ribisi film called The Dog Problem, written and directed by Scott Kahn. Scott and Giovanni are next on Higher Definition.
Yeah.
much I need you.
Hey!
And I can't stand you. Must everything you do make me want to smile. Can I not like you for a while? No.
You won't let me. You upset me, girl. And then you kiss my lips. All of a sudden I forget
that I was upset.
I can't remember what you did.
But I